This is my pocket notebook. We've discussed a few times on this channel about my unusual habit of carrying around a notebook that I sometimes use more than my phone, which is kind of weird given it's the 21st century. We've looked at how it increases mental clarity, focus, creativity, critical thinking, and other things along those lines, but we haven't really looked at how to use a pocket notebook in the way that we need to in order to gain those benefits. So whether you journal, use a pocket notebook, use your phone, or whatever other medium you decide, the system that I'm going to share with you in this video has really benefited me in my pursuit of bettering myself, and I'm hopeful that I can do the same for you as well. When it gets boiled down, there's really only about 3 ways that I use this notebook. We have capture, distill, and close. CDC. Should be pretty easy to remember, and each of them work mostly independent of each other. Humans are taking in more information right now than they ever have in the history of human civilization. Okay, but we already knew that. So how much information are we taking in on a daily basis? Well, a study found that over half of the world's population has an active social media account. That's a lot of people, okay? But let's look at just Americans for the sake of this video. The average American consumes 34 gigabytes of data and information per day. With that amount of data, you could watch every episode of Stranger Things. You could play Fortnite for 15,000 hours. You could scroll TikTok for like 94 hours. Okay, we get it. It's a lot of information. It stands to reason then that we need to find a way to filter out and selectively capture only the information that we actually want to keep. If only there was an accessible way to capture information without getting distracted and without adding unwanted information. Now, sometimes I will still use my phone to capture information because it is still faster and it is sometimes more convenient. But if I'm not in a hurry, my notebook works perfect because it has one job, it does it well, it's not gonna distract me, and it's not gonna try to sell me anything. Like, it literally doesn't care if I use it or not. It has no agenda, nothing. And then later on in that day or the following week, I'll take those notes that I wrote down in my notebook and I'll transfer them into Notion, which is where I keep my second brain, which moves us into Distill. Think of the distilling process like a lump of coal. And you chisel away at that lump of coal until eventually you get rid of all of the excess and you're left with this gold nugget inside. And we've probably all experienced this where we have a thought, question, idea, problem, whatever the case may be, that comes into our mind. And whenever we try to think about it, it's confusing. Like, our thoughts are all jumbled up. We can't make sense out of it. We can't quite figure out like what angle to attack it from. So what we need to do is we need to take that lump of thought or question or whatever it is, we need to take that swirling mess and we need to take it and distill it down to the essence of what it is. Like, at the core, at the very core, what is it? And then from there, we can solve it, work on it, build it, whatever the case may be. So here's how I do that with my notebook. The first thing I do is I write down the thought, idea, question, or whatever it is that I'm confused about and that needs to be resolved. The next thing we do is we start chipping away at whatever that is with questions. It might go something like this. When I'm around such and such, I find myself getting angry a lot. What happens when you get angry? I withdraw and avoid interaction. Is that helping the situation? No. What's a better alternative? Figure out what the problem is. So what's the problem? And from here, you just keep going. You keep chipping away at it until eventually you hit something that you can actually work with, something that you can actually take and move forward. And there's something really expressive about writing words on a piece of paper, especially when those words are your thoughts and they're in a space where you cannot be distracted. And again, we're not saying that this is the only method that you can use, but this is a method that I've found very useful when trying to process information. So to recap what distilling is taking whatever we need to break down, naming it for what it is, and then breaking it apart with questions. In case you haven't noticed, the era we live in now is like the easiest it's ever been to procrastinate and just scroll on social media. The war on our attention is becoming a really, really big deal, which is why a great solution that I've found to help control my attention is today's video sponsor, which is Superfocus. Superfocus is a super nootropic that has 7 ingredients in it that helps me focus throughout my day on just day-to-day tasks and what matters most to me. And I think this is the coolest part because Superfocus is scientifically produced to literally help your brain produce new neurological pathways, which helps increase memory, mental focus, mental agility, stress reduction. There's tons and tons of benefits, not to mention it's incredibly healthy. So if you're looking to get out of the procrastination pit or the constant social media scroll and you want a little nudge to kind of give you the edge, check out the link down in the description where you can try Super Focus for yourself and see the amazing results that you can have as well. Not only are they running a special right now, but if you use code Austin, you'll save another 5% on your first shipment. Lastly, we move into clothes. Have you ever had a thought that just wouldn't go away? Like a really bad song that's just stuck in your head? Or maybe you need to do something that just keeps randomly popping up on like the first, second, and fourth Tuesday of every month at like 11:23 p.m. Like, what? It's really frustrating. It's like there's this little kid up in your brain just like randomly pressing play over and over and over.
Okay,
Believe it or not, there's actually a term for this, and it's called a thought loop. And if you've watched any amount of videos on the internet about journaling, you've probably encountered this. In fact, this video goes really in depth on the whole thought loop and how it works. Hey, that guy looks familiar. Essentially, it's your brain trying to find a rational answer to an illogical question or to something that doesn't make sense or that doesn't have an answer. It's like a thought getting stuck on a racetrack where it just goes around and around and around, trying to find a way out. And what's really cool is writing this thought down can actually close that loop, or at least make it so that your brain gives less energy to it. It's like someone stepping onto the racetrack and waving for everybody to stop. Therefore, my notebook would be like the flag man or something. I don't know. You've probably already done this. I mean, have you ever made like a shopping list? Yeah, I haven't either. Instead of trying to hold everything inside of your mind and then stressing out about what you probably forgot, you write it down, you make a list of whatever you need to buy so that your brain can forget it, which it usually does without much coaxing. Your brain doesn't need to give any extra thought to it because you've written it down and you know exactly where it is. And yet most people have like a life shopping list that they try to hold inside of their head with like 50 things bouncing around that they're trying to stress out about all at once. Okay, so here's what it looks like for me. I keep a running list of things in the back of my notebook. That way, when one page is done, I can rip it out and throw it away and it doesn't mix up my workflow and I'm not flipping through it like trying to find where was that at again. These are things like message my sister about what plant food she recommended, connect with the youth group about making supper plans, or buy something for Father's Day. And these aren't super urgent things, right? They're off in the distance a little ways, but they are available for me to do whenever I'm stuck in a traffic jam, waiting at the DMV, doctor's appointment, you know, the usuals. And it's great because I don't have to constantly think about them or worry about them popping up into my mind at the most random times, because I know that they're being held by a system that's better at remembering things than my brain. Okay, so some of you are probably like, why would you not use your phone for that? And it's a good question because our phones are very versatile and they're very, very useful for certain things. And on occasion, like I said, I do use my phone for this. It's not like I'm anti-technology or anything like that. But there's something about a phone, right? Because we use our phones for lots of different things. Oftentimes what will happen for me, personal experience here, is I'll open up my phone and I'll be triggered by something else that I need to do or that I should do. And instead of closing that loop, like I'm going on my phone to do, it reminds me of all these other 17 things that I also need to do. And so by opening my phone, I closed 2 loops and opened up 17. And so it creates this like continual like edgy feeling where you just feel like you're on the edge and you're just not quite satisfied or you're not quite still or something. I don't know how to put it. The other thing is that there's a really fascinating connection between the hand and the mind. And studies have found that closing a thought loop or writing about something that's very stressful, the benefits you're gonna get from writing that are gonna be much more than the benefits of typing it out on your phone. I would love to hear how you use your notebook, or if you don't have one and you're gonna get one, how you plan on using it in the future.